All right, all right. Hello, everyone. This is Courtney Rollins with the Life in Transitions Experts podcast, host of the podcast, and the YouTube channel and the Facebook group. Feel free to check us out in any of those spaces. If you're new for the first time, or maybe you already know, Life in Transitions Experts podcast is committed to sharing professionals and helping people who are through some of their biggest transitions in life. And there's a heavy focus on real estate, the world of real estate investing, and folks who find themselves maybe in challenging situations where they may need to sell real estate and have some options there. And today I'm super excited. I love when I get to interview amazing people in the profession. And it's awesome because I get to interview Adam Schneider from one of the, or if not the number one home buying company in America. You all have seen HomeVestors, whether you probably know it or not, the We Buy Ugly Houses folks. And he is an amazing franchisee who's going to be able to share some of his awesome wisdom and his journey here with us. So let me let him jump in. How's it going, Adam? How's it going?
Doing great, Courtney. Glad to be here.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. So please, can you tell folks who may be not familiar with you, what is your connection with HomeVestors and how did your journey begin, and what's your role with HomeVestors?
Yeah, HomeVestors has started in Dallas about 1997 or something like that, and it's a national franchise system for home buying. And I joined in 2012 in Raleigh, North Carolina. And one of the things that's different about this franchise system than others is we encourage to have multiple franchisees in a market. So most franchises, like a hair salon or a massage center or something, you'll have a dedicated territory and you're the only one there. But here, we want a lot of people in the market because we share with our advertising spend. And then when leads come in, they're on a rotation basis, so we don't cannibalize leads. So we built a really big team here. And then I added a second franchise in Greenville, North Carolina, just last year. So I operate two franchises now. And before I was in the real estate business, I was in the fascinating car rental industry for 23 years. And when I was done with that and I wanted to get into real estate investing, I didn't have any background in it. My family wasn't involved in it. And so I looked for a system. And that's what I got when I went to HomeVestors.
Oh, super cool. So a career transition, and you're saying that someone who has no real estate background, nothing in the family, can actually step in and be successful with that space. That
Yeah.
is pretty cool. What were you doing in the car rental space?
Oh, I started off at the very lowest level and worked my way up through management and was a vice president with Enterprise Rent a Car in my last role with those guys.
Oh, wow. And I know you said that the actual following a model seemed to be one of the things that attracted you to home investors. But why real estate? Can you say more about why real estate investing?
Yeah. So when I was done with the corporate world and I wanted to do things that were more entrepreneurial, I started going through the list of things I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to do something that was going to be food related or was going to rely on a lot of part-time employees and have a high range of hours there. And I wanted something that was going to be able to develop into having opportunities for passive income. And so the real estate investing clicked those boxes because you can do it for as many hours or as few hours as you want. You can have a big team or a small team or no team. And you can buy rental properties or buy properties and then sell them with owner financing. So there's different ways that you can end up having a passive stream of income over time.
Very awesome. And by passive, and how do you define a passive stream of income? We have some people or someone may be joining, they may be deeply familiar with real estate investing and just in general, but there may be some folks who are trying to figure out what this whole passive investing looks like. Can you share with us
I'm
what that
so glad
means
you
for you?
brought that up because sometimes when we're in an industry, we get used to our vocabulary
Oh yeah.
and not everybody knows what the terms mean. So
Mm-hmm.
when people are flipping houses, they think of that as being work because you
Mm-hmm.
buy a house, you flip it, and then you're on to the next one and you don't get any residual from that. When you buy a house and you keep it as a rental and the rent is coming in, that stream of income from the rent, that's considered passive income because theoretically you're not doing any work. Well, the reality is even though we call that passive income, sometimes we're doing work. And some people self-manage their properties and do a lot of work. And even if you have a property manager, there's still some work to do. And then the other part of the passive income would be if you buy a property and you sell it with owner financing. So now in that case, you're not responsible for the toilets and the taxes and everything that can go wrong. And then you're just acting like the bank, and interest payments are coming to you. And that's really the purest form of a passive income that you can get.
You become the bank. I mean, I've been attracted to, yeah, to rentals, toilet, termites, tenants, and taxes can be some of the challenges there, but having still having the ability to increase your net worth with the purchase, the tax benefits, and like you said, that mailbox money. Even though a lot of us now are using apps where it's not necessarily coming to our mailbox, it's still nice to be able to get the funds. But seller financing, becoming the bank and being the note holder, that is amazing. How's that worked out for you so far as that side of investing?
Yep, I'll answer that in a second. I do want to say when people want to be going back to the passive investor rentals, I recommend that people know what their reason is for becoming a landlord, because that's going to determine what kind of property you want. So if you're looking for cash flow versus equity, you may end up with two different kinds of property there.
That's a great point.
And so if you're looking for cash flow, you may end up going in a more rural area. And if you're looking for appreciation on it, you may be willing to not enjoy cash flow, but you're hoping that that property will gain in value, and that might put you into the middle of the city. So that's important for your listeners, Courtney, who are just getting started and looking at what they want to do with investing. So now,
oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I'm glad you said that, because I know a lot of folks, when we think of cash flow, that's the only thing folks are thinking about. But there may be times where, depending on where the property is located, as you're saying, that it may be to your best interest to take, to hedge your bets and take some losses because of the equity that is growing and your wealth that's growing. I appreciate you saying that. But yeah.
Yeah. And so then you had a question about the owner financing. Did you have a specific one?
Oh yeah, just how what does that look like for you, like as far as your portfolio? And I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do. It seems like it's a win-win-win for almost every person involved. But I love your experience with it.
Yeah, so I've got a half dozen properties, so I'm not a guru with it, but generally the model has been that it's lower priced inventory, and it's usually been rural with some acreage. And I run these on 20-year notes or 30-year notes. And I look for the affordability for the buyer on it. And so I ask the buyers what they can afford monthly, and then I'll back into that with the numbers to figure out how long the loan would need to go so that it matches what they're able to budget for it. And on the front end, if you're doing this, I use an RMLO, a residential mortgage loan originator, to vet the borrower. So the borrower would fill out all this paperwork, and that RMLO would confirm that this person's going to be able to handle the debt service that they're about to incur. We have a deposit. It might be 10% of the purchase price. And then we have monthly payments there. And I use a third-party loan servicing company. And they deal with all that paperwork. So I try to be pretty formalized with how it goes, because if you're going to grow it after a while, you just have to have some organization in place. And there are Dodd-Frank rules that are that you need to know if you're going to be doing more than a certain number of these per year. And that's why I use the RMLO in part, is to make sure I'm in compliance with all those rules.
That is great. I know there was a while where some people were being even predatory. There's by and large, I think people who are in real estate investing, and just people in general, are good folks. But there have been times where I've come across investors who sometimes set up seller financing and set up the end buyer in a position where they're not going to win, and they may even sometimes brag about it never even completing a seller finance deal where the end buyer is not able to purchase. So having an RMLO, a residential mortgage loan officer, and being Dodd-Frank compliant is awesome. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not great that your loan is supported by a hard asset, in case you do unfortunately have to take the back. But it's great that you're doing that. I also think it's awesome that you may have heard Adam talking about a third-party note servicing company. These folks, you can put it right into the monthly payments as well. You can up to like 49, 30. I don't know how much your service charges in general, but for them to be able to service, do all the administration paperwork, I'm imagine is a great part of your team. That's not on your team, but is a part of your team.
Yeah, that was a really important piece to do. They don't all have the same bedside manners, but they're efficient. And I want to say it's $30 or $35 a month, and that can
Yeah.
be a responsibility of the borrower.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So, is HomeVestors the way you're finding some of these properties opportunities? I imagine.
Right. So there's really sort of two camps of people, Courtney, who come to join HomeVestors. You either have people who were in the corporate world like I was, who want to get into real estate and have no knowledge and they want a system in place. And then the other group is people who are investors and they're just dissatisfied with the ability to acquire leads and acquire business.
Mm.
You can't just go through MLS. And so part of the secret sauce for HomeVestors is a really sophisticated advertising platform. There's a third-party advertising wing. So what happens is everybody who's a franchisee and an advertising council, they'll all send their money to the home office, and then the advertising wing will give recommendations on how to spend the money. And then these leads go directly to sellers, and the sellers call us up, and then we go on appointments, and we go from there. So that's the reason a lot of people join, is that they want someone else to deal with the lead generation.
That is awesome. Lead generation is in the space. Finding the deals. That's like the secret sauce of
That is the
anything,
secret
right?
sauce.
Well, what does it look like for a prospective investor to come to home investors? How do you vet them? How do they find out if they're able to apply? What are the I guess the criteria?
Right. The first thing I would say is, if somebody's kicking it around, is recognize that this is something that you want to be doing and thinking of as a full-time
Okay.
employment. In my opinion, if you're a hobbyist and you just like to do the
Mm.
work on flipping a house and you wanted to buy one house or two houses a year, I
Right.
would not get involved in any kind of system or network like this. It's just too expensive. I would just pay whatever the fee is going to be to go through a wholesaler or find it through some other third party. But if you want to do volume and you want to look at this as a business, then you should do your due diligence, and you can apply and talk to a local franchisee, or development agent is a term. That's what I am, where that person helps you to onboard and with coaching. And if you've never been involved with a franchise, there's something called an FDD. That's a franchise disclosure. And so you're going to want to do your homework, talk to people who are in the market, talk to people who've done it, and just vet it out and hear the good and the bad and the ugly, and decide if it's for you or not. But it can be a pretty quick process if you want it to be.
Gotcha. And what about the commitment? Is there a hey, if you're on board, you need to be on board for this type of many
Yeah,
years
it's
or
not
hours? Or?
it's not free, so don't think it's
Imagine.
free. So without getting too deep into all the costs, there's an entry cost, and then you really need to have the money to spend for advertising. That's your heavy that's your heavy spend, and so you want to make sure you're capitalized. And there's a lot of people who just aren't capitalized enough, and
Right.
it's really tough because you need a runway to get going and
Right.
to build your business.
And I've seen some folks. That lead generation we just said is the challenging part, but cultivating and nurturing the leads is something that is also super important. What does the support look like for home investors there?
Right. So whether you're with HomeVestors or any system,
Right.
really, any network, any group, you're going to want to have a really good lead generation system, and then you need a really good CRM,
Mm-hmm.
customer management system, in place. And so part of what you pay for when you join a HomeVestor system is the CRM system and help with cold drip campaigns and follow up systems and strategies and all of that. Because most of the time, you don't buy a house on the very first appointment that you go on at someone's house.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, it takes a while for things to percolate and for the timing to be right.
Right. I think that's what separates a lot of the folks from the competitors, the folks who can have a strong system for nurturing, cultivating, and follow up these leads. Now, are most of the leads is dispo handled by home investors, or do you all have an option of how you want to dispo, whether you want to flip or hold on to them, or even assign or turn them into notes? It sounds like you're able to turn some into notes. What is there any policy, or what does that look like as far as dispo for the properties you're getting in?
Yep, the disposition's a great question. So in a franchise system, every franchisee, their company is independently owned and operated.
Oh,
So
wow.
different,
Okay.
yeah. So different people are going to have different strategies for it.
Okay. All right.
The recommendation that we have when people first start is that they don't get involved in a really big rehab, because what ends up happening is that person's working just on the one house and they're not building their pipeline. And the better strategy is to be working on your business, building your pipeline, and getting in and out of your first properties fairly quickly so you get cash coming back in,
All right.
and then you can grow it. So we recommend that people, most of the stuff that I have is I'll buy it, and if I don't want to rehab it, I'll just take title to it, clean it out, and then put it on MLS. When I first started, I would do a lot of assignment. And so for people who don't know what that is, that means that you're going under contract with the seller and you're not selling the house, but you're selling your contract, or you're assigning your contract to the end buyer. And the reason that I've stopped doing that is it's relying on the end buyer to actually be able to get funds and come to the table and close. And I don't want to leave the seller hanging at the 11th hour. So I'm always prepared to take title. And I've just decided to just take title, clean it out, and then put it on MLS. So that's one disposition strategy. Sometimes I will do the renovations. I'm frankly not great at rehabbing. I don't really enjoy it, and I get aggravated by it. So I don't do that as a huge portion of all of my disposition. I have built a portfolio of rentals and short-term rentals and mid-term rentals, and now I'm just dipping my toes, like we've talked about, into the selling with owner financing.
Well, that's pretty powerful, Adam. And you have this machine, and you get to leverage the brand name and the ad spend of HomeVestors, and then you get to come in and have different strategies at your own disposal. I think that's a pretty powerful model for folks who have the funds to invest long term. What's something that makes you smile or surprised you from that transition, years ago, to being having two franchises and working in real estate?
Well, we advertise that we're going to help people who are in ugly situations.
Mm-hmm.
So we end up talking with a lot of people who are just in really tough, ugly situations. And some of them are crazy. So I bought houses from two people, Courtney, who didn't know that they were still married.
Wow.
So I feel people should know what their marital status is. That should seem like a basic level. And let's see, those are two ones that made me smile. But every once in a while, someone will just say something funny. So one of my earliest ones, I went to the seller's house and I asked the seller why she was willing to sell to us instead at a discount,
Right.
instead of selling on the market. And she said, Adam, I'm living with my boyfriend. He's younger than I am, and I want to break off this relationship, but I don't want him to know I'm selling the house until it's under contract.
Oh.
And she says, the younger men are so immature. I don't want to be around them anymore. And so, Courtney, how old do you think this lady was?
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine it. I don't even know what's her age.
She was 80 years old, and her boyfriend was 75.
Perspective.
And she
Oh
said she didn't
man.
like being with the younger boyfriends anymore.
Oh man.
So that
Hey,
one,
a problem solver right there, man. Yeah. Hey,
yeah. So that one
I,
made me smile.
I was going back to your point too that I thought was pretty cool, especially like the situation right here. You're helping solve people's problems, and it seems like every person, well, they say success leaves clues, and every successful investor, whether they're have discussed making sure that you solve problems. One of the cool things that I heard you say is you're talking about wholesaling. Some people say you take the title, clean it up a little bit, and perhaps you list it or you have some source, but you have the title, and that gives you the opportunity to go with confidence to a seller who has a problem and be able to say, "Hey, we're going to be able to resolve this issue for you." That is so powerful right there. What other characteristics do you think a someone who's going to be successful using this model needs, or just really successful in general as a real estate investor?
First thing I would say is you have to have a history of being able to overcome obstacles, have some grit, because you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find a princess in this business. You are going to a lot of houses, and most deals are not going to work out because there's an equity issue or there's not enough motivation from the person for them to be willing to take a discounted offer. So grit's a key one. Listening skills is a key one, because like you said, we're here to problem solve, and oftentimes the way it works is we're doing terms and conditions that are things that a retail buyer wouldn't do. Either letting someone stay in the house for a little bit after they close, or being willing to wait 6 months until they're ready to sell, or dealing with a house that needs so much work. So you need to find out what the issue is so you can find out how to match up and provide an opportunity that's a good solution for everybody.
Being able to live in the world of the prospective seller is so important, and that's what I hear you saying. And that word grit, some people being able to kiss a bunch of frogs. I hear a lot of people who want to get involved, and I'm fortunate to talk to a lot of people who want to get involved in wholesaling or real estate investing. And I think some come with the expectation that they can just call the first person up, and when they find out that it's simple but it's hard work, I think they're turned away. And it's like finding gold. You have to dig through the dirt if you're going to find the gold, and you have to be willing to do that. So when you have that ability, sustaining power, then it comes back tenfold. I saw you had to give shout out to David Mashian. I don't know if I'm saying his last name properly. Is that his name, David Mashian?
I pronounce it differently, but I'm not sold that I pronounce it the right way. So, but I know who you're talking about. So I'm not gonna override you. I'm gonna just nod my head.
We're gonna go with David. He's an awesome gentleman out in North Carolina who puts on Deal Exchange. Actually has one set up for tomorrow. This is January 24th, but set up tomorrow, January 25th. Reach out to me and I can connect you if you're listening and you want to join his meetup and networking events. He does the networking events so that people like me and Adam and contractors, lenders, developers can get together and really talk and do business and work, because like so many things in life, it's a team sport. Is that something that you do normally, go to networking events? How do you stay fresh and connected with people in this field of real estate investing?
Yep. So there's 3 chapters for me for this. One is pre-COVID, one's during COVID, and one's after COVID. So pre-COVID, I was really active in going to networking events. And what I tell people when you go to a networking event is you want to have a goal for what you're trying to accomplish. And you want to have your elevator speech. That's what you are all about. And you want to look for specific people who are a target for a match for you, not just talking with everybody. Because if you're talking with everybody but not with a targeted plan, you're going to find that you're wasting time, and then you're going to stop going. If, on the other hand, you have a targeted plan, specifically saying what you're looking for and how you can help, then you're going to gravitate to people who are going to be connections, just like you and I became a connection so quickly off of that. And that's helpful. So that was that. Then when COVID, it all got turned upside down, and it was all virtual. And it was a good and a bad, because more people were willing to go on these Zoom calls. So you're having more people doing it, but they were only sort of half paying attention when they were on them. It just has a different feel. And then post-COVID, I'm just getting back into it, and I think that's how everyone's feeling. But in our local market, I recommend to people to go to this thing that David has, Bigger Pockets. I recommend people go. They have a once-a-month meeting, and Bigger Pockets is a national thing. You can go to biggerpockets.com and sign up for their subscription. But we have a great local leader here in Raleigh. And then most parts of the country have a RIA, a Real Estate Investor Association meeting. And so if you just go to these meetings, you'll start to find the right matches, but just make sure you have a purpose for why you're going to the meeting.
Absolutely, mission and a purpose. That is, yeah. Coming back with 10 to 20 business cards, even though many people don't have business cards anymore, it's not going to be as effective as going in with a purpose. And I think, I mean, a lot of people. Well, there's a lot of different personalities that are in real estate investing, but I think having a mission and purpose going in helps folks who maybe aren't as extroverted. You know what you're looking for, and you know what you're hopefully bringing to the table. So that's an awesome tip and an awesome tool. And I didn't know that Bigger Pockets was local. I had to get that information from you and put it in the seller notes and show notes and check it out myself. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And,
Ryan Cassidy is the guy who hosts it, and it's on Glenwood Avenue. Usually, it's once a
right
month.
up the street from me. Right up the street.
Yeah. So remind me after the show, and I'll send you the details.
Oh, please do, please do. So if there was someone who feels like they have some funds and they're ready for a model, or I feel like they're just in the stage where they want to attempt to be a franchisee or work with you, how would they get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Great question. Thanks for asking. So my first name Adam, my last name Schneider, SCHNEIDER, at HomeVestors.com, or they can look me up on LinkedIn, and those are probably the two fastest ways to do it.
So it's Adam Schneider, right?
Yes, Adam.Schneider at HomeVestors.com.
And I'll this is live right now, but I'll also let's maybe we'll show it. I'll also put this in the show notes when it actually is published on YouTube and published in the different podcast formats. So definitely reach out to Adam if you have any questions at all. Do you guys offer any? I mean, I imagine there's you have, with folks having funds, there's a level of experience that, or at least savvy, that's needed. But as far as coaching and mentoring, I'm sure you don't just give them the reins and let them go. What does that look like ongoing?
Yeah, that was an important part for me when I joined, is that I wanted something that had a system there. So the way it would work in this organization is there's a week of training at the home office. I'd equate that to like basic training in the military.
Okay.
And then after that, there would be a development agent assigned to you. So that's your coach on the ground. And once a month, there's advertising council meetings here with other franchisees who are usually really supportive. And a couple of times a year, there'll be a convention that's held. So there's constant ongoing training throughout.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I love doing these interviews. I get to learn so much. I get to connect with awesome folks. And I've always seen that We Buy Ugly Houses. So you guys, they are everywhere. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you know, Big Brother, Google, and Yahoo's I'm sure it's gonna pop up now because it's just powerful. But that's great. You got to be loud, right? You know, every day you got to be loud and let people know. So I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with, life and transitions experts?
I'm grateful, Courtney, that you do this for people. You give people an opportunity to hear how people in this field work, and it's just really appreciated. So thank you for doing this for everybody.
Man, thank you for being so willing. You know, somebody from such a large program and organization, you are extremely accessible, Adam, and I think that probably is why you've had so much success being able to connect with folks, because you know people are set up the systems there and they're giving you the lead generation, but it's you and your team that has to follow through. So obviously you have awesome tools, man. I really appreciate that. Everyone, this is the Life and Transitions Expert Podcast. If you want to share your experience, whether you're new or whether you're seasoned like Adam, feel free to reach out to me. I would love any, the like, subscribe, any feedback you can provide is awesome. We love growing. We love getting feedback. And I'll sign off, as I always do, Life and Transitions Experts, LITE. Let your light shine. Cheers.